Inside Out.
Who could be financing you? Because you know, for you to say you're going to attack the Museveni system built over 40 years with its resources and the military, you must be really financed by a heavy superpower. What could that superpower be?
Your superpower is the truth, the knowledge, the ideology, and understanding.
This is Inside Out.
Right, welcome to the SML News Yugi, your most preferred online TV. How are you doing this festive season? I hope you're enjoying yourselves. Our friends in the diaspora, our friends in Uganda, we're back here to serve you as always. I want to welcome you to this special edition of the Inside Out. My name is Simon Moyanga Retire.
This is Inside Out.
In this special edition, I have a special guest, one of the rare ones on our airwaves, the Honorable Jimmy Akena, President General of the Uganda People's Congress. I hope that is no contest. There were contestations. Are those done, Mr. President?
First, it is President, not President General. President General is for the Democratic Party.
Okay.
Yes, there are people who still grumble, but I think it is clear that there's only one party which has representation in parliament, in local government, and has the headquarters in Uganda House. And since you visited me in Uganda House, I think you're in the right place to interview the right person.
So there are no contestations over leadership?
There will always be contestations, and the people will raise their issues, but that is not going to deter us in the tasks which we've taken upon ourselves to respect the support which has been given by the party members in order to drive the party forward.
Thank you. Honorable Akena, I want to remind you of the bad history that politics brought to your family. That to the extent that your father died in exile, what then inspired you into a game that had brought that misery to your family? That you were a politician, you'd have said,
To tell the truth, I tried to keep away from politics. But somehow I kept on being drawn back time and time again. Then it was in the mid-90s, when we were leading up to the new constitution, that I made the decision to go 100% in politics. That was the time I quit my job. I quit my job in 94 and embarked on full-time politics. I became my father's assistant, and since then I have not looked back.
What did you study to do other than politics? What's your profession?
I was actually working for a company which was selling veterinary and public health products. I started in that company straight out of school. I rose in the ranks. So by the time I retired, I was a country manager. Coming to that point, I was given a choice of 4 countries to go to. It was either Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, or Zambia. Mm-hmm. So I did the obvious choice and I went to Zambia. And of course, while I was there, I saw what was happening, what my father was going through. And that's when I made the decision that I'd rather dedicate my time and effort to support him in his work, and that's why I made the decision to end up in politics.
Any regrets so far?
No, there have been difficult times, there have been rough times, but I would not have done it any other way. In fact, if I could live it again, I probably would have made the decision sooner.
Oh, so you find it okay that you are now a full-time politician?
Basically, I've been a full-time politician for this now 30 plus years.
Do you hold presidential ambitions? Like father, like son?
I am intending to contest in this coming election for the position of presidency with the endorsement of the party. But the system which existed before is slightly different from now, in that both times when my father was elected, it was under parliamentary system.
Yes.
We now have a presidential system which has slight differences, but I'm going to be offering myself in the next election.
You want to stand for president in 2026?
In 2026, I want to be on the ballot.
There were talks of returning to a parliamentary system. Would you support that? There were talks.
It depends also the reason why it will be done, but as of now, we're very late in the election cycle in order to start changing the whole voting system. Had we intended to go for parliamentary system, amendments should have come earlier on, and we should have prepared the ground. If we're doing it as a knee-jerk issue, what are we curing? So, and as of now, the law provides for a presidential system, so we're preparing for a presidential system. Previously, I preferred the parliamentary system because parliamentary system puts the focus on the entities, the political parties. So political parties must have a basis and must have something which brings them together. Unlike a presidential system where they look at an individual. So I would have preferred a parliamentary system previously, but as it is now, in this cycle, I believe it is too late to now start trying to introduce a parliamentary system.
Honorable Akena, are you a genuine politician?
I'm a proper dyed-in-wool politician.
Are you a genuine one?
Oh, yes.
There's a wide belief that you and Mr. Museveni are working together to the extent that you donated him your wife, who is a minister in his cabinet. How do you wake up in 2026 to contest with a man you have helped to build a system?
No. There's no system which we have built. I have been open and I've actually pursued from time to time issues of dialogue. I think one of my big tasks when I first entered politics was the dialogue in Juba. First in Garamba, then in Juba around the peace process. My engagement with Kony did not make me a member of LRA.
Yes.
It gave a basis whereby people could get out of the IDP camps and be able to live their lives, and we could now start questions of development. Also within the auspices of IPOD, which brings together political party with representation of parliament, I pursued it, and I was the first party leader to be able to hold a summit, which involved many parties. At that time, it was only the FDC, which boycotted, but we were able to have meetings with the president of FDC, Honorable Muriat, and his positions were largely articulated, especially by Basariro of Jema, but my effort was, we need to bridge the gap. Then also you must look at things in the context that we're going into an election. Each of us will go with our own position in the election. After the election is done, there will be those who are elected and those who will be given the tasks of running the country for the next 5 years. I don't believe in 100% politicking in between. You must, in my own point of view, engage, work, and then when you come to another election cycle, you prepare for that election cycle. Now, also the question of UPC, NRM, in every election, I have had an NRM candidate stand against me.
Yes.
Even Onbo Betty has contested with an NRM candidate for every election. As we go into elections, we go as UPC. After election, we can see how we can find a consensus of how we can work for Uganda. But policy-wise, UPC and NRM are completely different.
Would it not be hard for you to tell the common man that? It's not easy. Look at it.
For me, it is straightforward because earlier today I was even mentioning that we have to find a basis whereby we can interact as Ugandans. This all-out politics where you cannot talk to one another, you cannot be seen in the same room as one another, we have to find levels beyond that one. Because if we're going to deal issues with transition or whatever, we only have one country, which is Uganda. We cannot make it impossible for any other person to exist. So where you can show a little bit of maturity and have some level of interaction, I think it's better on the larger scale of things. But ultimately, we belong to political parties, we have our political philosophies, and that's what we hold dear as we head into elections.
You like you said, you were an assistant of your father, you were too close to each other, you're very good friends. One would imagine that his wishes would be your wishes. And I think that's why you're here, to keep building UPC so that the Obote legacy continues. But you just know how much Obote hated Museveni. And when he dies, his son gets to work with this same man.
No. The son has been elected 4 times on a UPC ticket. When I was coming to Uganda, and because we had struggled for multipartyism, I discussed with him, and he gave me his blessings to return. I returned first in April 2005,
yes,
which was basically before officially parties were allowed to operate, but we had already won the victory in court. And as UPC, we had our first meeting at Christ the King. I attended that meeting. And we discussed. His preparation was meeting some of his old political friends, and he was really trying to muster a lot of support for the 2006 elections. And the last meeting, I will tell you, the last meeting he had in South Africa was with the ANC Secretary General, a meeting which I arranged, which he insisted upon, and which he did for me his hospital bed, because he was seeking support for the elections. Now, in those elections, he said that he was quite open and saying that we have in Uganda a 20-year dictatorship.
And he used to call it a dictatorship.
A dictatorship.
Until his
Now,
death.
after 20 years, you cannot expect that you're going to come and overturn a 20-year dictatorship.
Yes.
So, we'll be able to make ends meet. We'll be able to, get victory in that sort of election. He had a longer view that election, you're not going to get victory, but you get a chance to have a foothold.
Okay.
And when we went to the election, it basically took me by shock. We did far worse than we had anticipated, than what we had believed when we were coming in. But it was when I also realized his foresight, that there are times where you cannot get everything in one go, but you need to get in and continue building from that point of entry. So I have been doing so. Since I've entered Parliament, I've been working towards strengthening the party. I've been trying to work with others within the party, so that we can remain relevant and remain active. It has not been easy. The ground has not been very conducive, but we have made some progress. And that is why I can say confidently now in 2026, we are ready to take a next step forward.
It is an uphill task that you certainly see that you cannot, Mr. Jimmy Akena, dislodge Mr. Museveni's leadership, militarily, financially, even with the ground support. He has presence in every village. You don't have presence in some of these places. Is it a joke, or you are working for him anyway?
Of recent, in the recent by-elections, NRM invested heavily, but were able to defeat them in 2 by-elections.
Yes.
That one, I think, goes to show that under the preparations which we have been working on, we are able to even defeat the money which was deployed, the security agencies which were deployed, and everything which was put in place in those elections. A much larger scope, but I can tell you honestly that this is a tested formula which has worked and which can continue to work. So to think that NRM is invincible, I don't. I know it is not. We have defeated them in these 2 elections.
Deeply entrenched in the villages.
True, but we have defeated them in these 2 elections. So it is not something which is going to cower me. I just need to prepare my teams to know exactly what to do. And definitely we're going to face them in the next election.
Aren't you comfortable running another 5 years as Member of Parliament as you prepare better? That's what I would see.
I have done 4 terms as Member of Parliament.
Yes, but still people want you. You can still win.
I am now going, it's not a question of whether I could win, it's a question of how do you position UPC better to determine the future of Uganda. And I don't think I can better do so as a Member of Parliament. At this stage, it is more important that I take a stage on the national stage and take our message across the country as we try to seek a Uganda which works for all of us.
You have the finances to do the ground mobilization?
I do.
Because that has been the most and biggest and doing of the opposition.
NRM,
money.
had
People
more
want money.
NRM had more money than us in all these elections, but we've been able to get something out of it. At the end of the day, as citizens of Uganda, if you are ready to sell your souls for those small handouts you get during an election, then you deserve to be in the chaos you're in. You deserve to have an education system which only puts $5 per student per year, which you compare South Africa is doing $1,700. Even our neighbors with a much weaker economy, Rwanda is doing 10 times what we're doing to educate the next generation. So if as Ugandans were not ready to rise up to the challenge and to deal with the issues, then the 2000 or whatever which is thrown at people is going to determine your future. You will eat for that one day, and then for the rest of your life, it's going to be a mess. And your children and the children's children will be in a mess. We have to take charge of our destiny and be able to handle things and do things for the benefit of all of us.
Mr. Museveni has just rolled out the parish development model to deal with that kind of household poverty you're talking about and those kind of situations. What is the alternative that UPC would have?
It is a dismal failure. From what I've seen in the area which I am in charge, parish development model has not worked. It was not well thought out. And of recent, we had this interview done by Mwenda when he interviewed General Saleh, who has been central to many of these agriculture side of things, of operation, wealth creation, and the like. And it came out clearly that there was a deliberate effort to dismantle the cooperatives in order to reduce the influence of UPC. Now, the cooperatives were able to raise the standard of living across the board. We were able to empower citizens all across the country.
True.
So the poverty which people are in was somewhat deliberate in order for control. Now, since they dismantled the cooperatives, they have struggled to bring in alternatives. I've seen NAS, I've seen PMA, Tandikwa, Operation Wealth Creation, and now you talk of PDM. None of these programs have been able to substitute the work which the cooperatives did. And they keep on trying, and still it's going to be a failure. So unless you get back to some of the basics, some of the issues which will empower people in order to be able to get a decent earning and be able to raise a family, you're going to keep going around in circles. And on that one, I think the UPC record is clear.
But what is also true is that your father had turned cooperatives into political tools. They were not economic tools. They were not doing economics at all.
They were doing economics because it was dealing with production. And the production, various areas, cooperatives were geared around the areas of production. So it had nothing to do with UPC. And now, if after UPC is overthrown, why are you dismantling it? If there's a political tool, why are you dismantling it?
To drive them to the initial objective, to do economics now, because they were supposed to do the reason you started cooperatives is to do economics. If politicians like you hijack them into political tools, political entities, the duty is to return them to the original objective.
Now, why have they returned to the original objective?
They're trying.
This is almost 40 years. If you try for 40 years and you've not succeeded, then you just conclude you're a failure. What UPC did, when you look at the cooperatives, recently with my committee of parliament, we went to Mombasa, looking at Uganda Property Holdings. Now, Uganda Property Holdings holds these assets. And me with my colleagues were shocked to see massive warehouses, commercial buildings, private buildings, residential buildings in Mombasa. And they told, oh, these were property of Lynn Marketing Board, this is Produce Marketing Board, this was Coffee Marketing
You're
Board.
talking about properties that belong to Uganda?
Yes.
In Kenya?
In Kenya.
In Tanzania?
You know, it was mainly in Kenya, the export route. You find property in Kisumu, Nairobi, and Mombasa.
Built by the old cooperatives.
The old cooperatives. They have property in London, where most of the sales were. Nalukulongo, which is now under World Food Program, and Aponye, those are stores of Produce Marketing Board.
Yes.
Right?
True, yes.
So you cannot be acquiring these assets if it is not working.
It was working.
And people are getting the money. The produce was going out. The figures which were there were huge. Now that was what built Uganda. The common man, the farmer who was supported by his cooperative. Now, you dismantle the cooperatives. I even asked myself, they said, no, a lot of coffee is going. You ask yourself, how is the coffee going? Where is it passing? Most of those exports in those days was by rail. Loaded on the train. You had now, that's why there was property in Kisumu where the train would pass, Nairobi, and Mombasa, the warehouses for export. Now you go into the warehouses, you're finding produce from various East African countries, a little bit of Ugandan coffee there, you see things from Burundi and whatever. Now, all of this was geared towards supporting the Ugandan farmer to get in the export market. With the properties in UK where they were now on the market floor, because most being a British colony, that was what was there. So that one you cannot say it is politics, which whatever. I mean, even this Victoria University, That was property of Produce Marketing Board.
Victoria University.
Yes, the building
Property
of Produce Marketing Board. Farmer's House. Those are cooperative properties, not government. Because cooperatives were not really government. These were farmers' organizations.
True that.
So they had all these assets. There you strip down the assets, you get rid of some of the assets, and that is development. You are saying that, okay, Obote politicized. Obote has been dead now almost 20 years. Can you still be crying about Obote?
His influence was so indelible that it has taken us decades to
Now,
to
a lot
find.
of it is in concrete. You look across here, this building.
Yes. The UCB building.
Yeah, when was UCB established? UCB was established under UPC.
And the building is...
Building is here. And in all the major towns, there are buildings. Stanbic just came and inherited buildings. All major towns, Stanbic is not renting. Not only buildings for the bank, buildings for staff. Housing for staff. That was something which was working for the people. Now you struggle with an indigenous bank to do anything. Interest rates, you find the president is crying about interest rates. No, people are being overcharged. They're going to stop people and whatever. Now, where are the tools? You sold the tools. You sold the Uganda Commercial Bank. You sold the Cooperative Bank. You destroyed some of these entities, and now you lack the tools on how you can now influence the development. So I don't think UPC was a failure on the issue of cooperatives. It built Uganda, and anybody who was producing, the cooperative did not ask what party you are. It was you producing and not. Even the credit which the cooperatives would give, it was based on your production ability. You see, they brought this issue that land, people didn't have titles or whatever, but if I've been producing with a cooperative, the records are there.
Yeah, of course, there are good records.
And then they will know what I'm capable and what I'm not capable of. And that's how people are surviving. Now you've dismantled it, we have failed to substitute it.
Given the changes we have experienced in our economy globally, do you think cooperatives can still have place for Uganda? Look at the global economics now.
Global would have changed, but when global is changing, you're also changing and training your manpower for those changes. Now, if I had, over the last 40 years, whoever in the village, maybe in Lango, who's growing cotton, at the time, the land pressure was not what it is now. Because population has increased roughly 3 times. So at that time, they were able to get the cotton, sell the cotton, educate their children. Now you'll be able to educate your child and prepare your child for the future which they're going to live in. You're not static. Of course, people look at courses which are relevant, areas which are relevant, IT, areas, different areas of skill. But also UPC had a manpower development policy.
Yes.
Where you look ahead and you see what sort of manpower are we likely to need in the next 5-10 years, and you do your preparation. You don't wake up and you say you send people to university, they come out and you say, no, that course is useless. You go and now do agriculture. You at least try to create an environment that we're going to need so many IT specialists. Let us invest in preparing them. We're going to need so many people who are going to be dealing with the issue of manufacturing or processing. You deal with that issue. You don't wait for it to come and then say, now, okay, because these courses are useless. It shocks me when the president says that a lot of these courses are useless, people go to university. Now, parents struggle to put their kids through those universities. Some of them are selling property, they're selling, everything to get that education. And then you'd be told at the end of the day that it's useless. What did you do in order to safeguard or guide the kids in the right direction earlier now? Or it is something where government says, oh, no, as to whom it may concern, it's not our problem. So all of those issues must be part of our conversation. We must look deliberate. Recently, when I was in Kisoro for the by-election, Kigezi on the land question is on the brink. It's on the brink. Unless we have ways of absorbing the generations which are coming up, you're going to have an issue there. And also where it has spilled over, you have those issues of clashes. You have clashes in different areas, different parts of Uganda. Areas where there's pressure, you find like in the east around the Budaka, Butaleja area, there's a lot of conflicts developing. on the issue of resource of production, the land for production. Other areas are getting clashes. So we needed to have trained our young people to be able to be independent of some of those issues. They must have the right knowledge and skills to be able to move on. Those are things which we're going to bring on the table.
Confident UPC can still take power in Uganda and change the country's economic and politic.
We are going to do everything in order to make sure that we are a key driver of the change and the politics and the policies which are going to take us to the next level.
But you are an exclusive politician. You don't work with others. When opposition politicians are going to visit Besigye, Akena is missing. When they are launching Whole Alliance, Akena is missing. When they are launching Sijui what, the now DA, Akena is missing. You seem to be running your own lane and not working with others.
Now, when it came to the issue of bringing people on the table under iPod, who was the number one?
It's you, but
Yes.
that's it. You ended there.
No, we got some progress. The resources which parties are getting now is something which I would say I was able to succeed to increase the funding to the political parties. But I am open to engage. I'm going to engage on my terms, and I'm clear on the direction which I'm going. I'm not going to jump on somebody's bandwagon because it may look good. I'm going to do what I believe is right and what works for the people.
And when you fail to join some of these efforts, that's when the public believes that you work for Mr. Museveni. For example, have you gone to visit Dr. Besigye now?
No, I've not.
You have not?
No. The time when people were going, I had traveled out of the country. I came back on Saturday. I was in Kabale, then I came back to Kampala on Sunday. So I've been out for a lot of this period. But still, we have spoken about it. In our press conferences, we've spoken about it. Even today, in my press conference, I spoke about it. There are areas which I have faulted government on the issue of abducting somebody from across the border. There's due process. And I mentioned my own experience that as a child, I was bundled in Kenya and brought to Uganda with my mother. That was some of my first experience in living memory, which was not a very good experience. So we will continue to talk about these issues, but issues of development, I will continue to talk about.
What has been your footprint in Parliament where you have spent 20 years? What should we remember about Akena?
It is more than Parliament, because Parliament now, you have this 2-minute issue, which I don't believe anyone can really articulate in 2 minutes. And you find that many of the senior members have taken more of a back seat. Unless you have a good quip which you can give, a small remark, but getting into substance of issues, no. I've been active on the committees, and I have been looking at the overall picture. Parliament has given me lessons of how things are done. But the Parliament of today, I think in many ways, is losing its direction and its role. In some ways, it has become an appendage of the executive. The most telling was when we were passing when the bill for the Coffee Development Agency was on the floor, UCDA. Security, the so-called security of Parliament, treated us like criminals. So you ask yourself, this security is for Parliament or against the parliamentarians? It took me 3 hours from National Theatre to enter Parliament. 4 checks. So Parliament should be the sanctuary of the members of Parliament. Yes, I know that something happened there, that members of Parliament exchanged a bit. But I've seen parliaments where that happens. But you cannot subject members of Parliament to that level of humiliation and you still call them honorable members. 2, this interference of security agencies on the floor of Parliament. No, that one is beyond acceptable to me. The first time it happened, I almost cried in Parliament. I was shocked seeing what was happening in Parliament.
But you never joined the fight. That's why people say you're exclusive. When you see the opposition boxing, Mr. Akena, please, the man from Lango, join in. Do some boxing. Sort out these things. Because if they choose to sort them manually, let's sort them manually. But you are exclusive still. You stood
Parliament.
aside and looked.
Even the boxing in Parliament, that is undermining the whole institution of Parliament. I have great respect for the institution of Parliament. There are things which I saw which I'm not happy with. I saw somebody going to sit on the speaker's table.
Yes.
No.
You rejoin
The
him.
speaker is above that one. Now, in most parliaments, serious parliaments, Commonwealth parliaments, first of all, when a speaker is elected speaker, they resign from their political party. They cease to be a member of the political party.
Mm-hmm.
And when they go for elections, like for example Britain, if a speaker is going for elections, no credible party will field against a speaker. Speaker will go, speaker seeking re-election.
Yes.
So for example, if UK Anita Mong is going for re-election and is no longer a member of NRM, UPC, DP, NRM, all the parties will not field. You may get some cranks who will go and stand, which happens even in the UK, but they do not field because that issue is to create that independence of the speaker to work for the institution. Speaker is supposed to be the mother and father of that institution. Not running to State House, not beckoning to State House. Parliament is supposed to act as an independent institution.
That's your utopian view.
Not utopian
that is the
view.
father,
That is
mother. What if he's behaving the other way?
That is the parliamentary practice within the Commonwealth. Now, we are a mixture between a Commonwealth and a presidential system because almost all Commonwealth countries don't have a presidential system, they have a parliamentary system. Now, if you go to the American system, for example, the Speaker of the upper house is the Vice President.
Yes.
Clearly partisan, right?
Yes.
And in the lower house, it's also elected, but it's partisan. And there, that's why you have that issue of the two parties, like the two parties. It's very partisan, but it's a two-party issue. Commonwealth systems, you have more parties than that, and there's an independence of the speaker. So we also need to make a decision how we're going. I have not been happy to see some of the trends which have taken place, and I would like to see in future that there's greater independence in the parliament. I'll prefer, even if somebody does not respect you, it does not mean you should not respect them. Even if somebody does not honor their roles, it does not mean that you should dishonor the roles which they're supposed to be there. So I still want to believe Parliament should be an institution whereby we have the independence and can work independently for the people of Uganda.
Thank you, Mr. Jimmy Akena, President, Uganda People's Congress. I still want to get to your politics. The country wants change.
Can I call my spokesperson? Because I'm going into many issues which I need.
Okay, as we wind up. We are getting into the 2026 elections. And there is a general feeling that you people who are opposed to Mr. Museveni should work together and field a joint candidate. How good is that? What's your view?
In my understanding, it is more important at parliamentary and lower and local government level to find a consensus. That way you can increase the representation at different bodies. But for a presidential, when the law says 50+1,
50 plus, yes.
If, for example, last election Bobby got
35.
If Bobby can hold 35%, and let's say, for example, I'm able to get 15%,
You're at 50 now.
where does that leave?
A rerun already.
Exactly. So, at presidential, I do not believe it is important to limit any candidates. Whatever somebody holds, it will add up at the end of the day. If there is a rerun, it will be the top two candidates. And those top two candidates is now where you decide which one you're going to back. So for me, at presidential first round, it's not necessary. Where we need to talk is how we can increase our numbers of members of parliament, for example, because there's this issue which is going to be the sort of resources necessary today to win an election. Many people in opposition are limited by that factor. You may have very competent, well-organized people, but are limited. Then if you split the vote, and NRM is able, sometimes by offering goodies, to withdraw some candidates, they are likely to be able to get more seats on that basis. So discussion should be more about how we're going to deal with questions of parliament and local government, but on presidential, it will not hurt us in any way for anybody to go for the presidential.
But other than walking in your father's footsteps, what really why really would you want to be president of Uganda? And saying, oh, but my father was president, I must be president. What's the driving motive?
You know, I've seen the policies of UPC were able to transform people's lives. There are people who, even people who are in very high positions today, if it were not for UPC, they would not be where they are. The opportunities which they get to be able to get that self-actualization, the opportunities to be able to develop were available because of the policies which are put in place. Now, it's important for us to create avenues for the next generation and generation after to be able to thrive. Not this sort of system which is closed where certain people who have arrived there and they're trying to block everybody from succeeding. I don't think that is fair. And I think it's important that we should be able to leverage that one. And having been a refugee in many places, many Ugandans do not realize how blessed we are as a country. We are blessed. Our natural climate, our availability of opportunities, we must leverage that one to work for the citizens of Uganda. And if we don't do it for Ugandans, what are we doing it for? So I feel that there's an important role to be played, and it cannot be played in the backseat. We must be actively involved. We must be aspiring to make a difference. At the end of the day, once you've done what you can, others will be able to take over, but you must prepare the next group to come through. Now we've created a bottleneck which is going to explode at some point. The lack of opportunities, I've seen it in jobs. Parliament has advertised, I think, 10 jobs. Thousands applied. All jobs, when you see a job applied, thousands applied. People are going for working in the most difficult conditions everywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. We must find ways to absorb and be able to create an environment where people can thrive in Uganda, not to be able to look for issues outside Uganda. And I think that is more than enough to keep you occupied and active in politics.
I hope you're aware that the opposition's biggest undoing has been the lack of structures, grassroots structures, to even protect your own vote on the voting day. That there are people in my village who will vote for Jimmy Akena, but there is not even an agent to protect Akena's vote from the village to the district. One of the reasons has been the cost. The other has been that there is no enabling environment for you to build the structures. How do you intend to handle such challenges?
It has been a problem, and that is how we've been able to overcome it in certain areas where we've been more active. Especially in Dokolo, we're able to really get down to the grassroots, and we're able to completely undo what they'd intended. So going forward, we have been looking at methods of how we can strengthen the grassroots as best we can. One of the issues which we put forward, and which I'm going to forward to the next delegates conference, is to move the election of the party president from this district level, which is the first stage, and then the delegates conference. I want to take it to the village, such that by going to the village, we're taking the structures down to the village, allowing every member an opportunity to participate. And that also gives us an opportunity to set up at that level. And that will also give you a clear guidance of what you can, what you cannot do. So those are some of the efforts which we're going to be putting in place in order to strengthen the
That is very costly, Mr. Akena. Very costly.
Yes and no. Yes and no. Because I have been running politics. I've been active in politics, I've been active in elections. I know the costs. It also depends how you're doing it. And what we're going to do is going to be manageable within our means, but it will be very effective thereafter.
Who could be financing you? Because you know, for you to say you're going to attack the Museveni system built over 40 years, with its resources and the military, you must be really financed by a heavy superpower. What could that superpower be?
The superpower is the truth, the knowledge, the ideology, and understanding.
Truth, knowledge, ideology, understanding. No, I'm meaning which foreign power is giving you money?
No. That is what I'm working with.
Truth, knowledge, understanding,
Ideology.
ideology. That's what you are basing on.
That's what has been working.
You think that can defeat Mr. Museveni?
Museveni is not invincible. It is you people who have created this myth that Museveni is invincible. No, Museveni can be defeated.
Eh?
Yes.
Mr. Akena?
And he will be defeated.
Museveni can be defeated by you, Akena.
By Ugandans.
The inside out, Honorable Jimmy Akena chooses to do the undoable, to sacrifice your parliamentary slot and go into a presidential gamble. You may be just one of the few who can afford to do that because you're sure that you can still win in the leader. But you are choosing to leave that comfort, the parliamentary salary and its privileges, to go into a gamble where many have tried and failed, including your own mother, Mr. Akena. You need to think twice.
I think I have had more experience in the politics. I've been elected politics. I've been now engaged for the last 20 years in Uganda. Before that one, I was active in the politics. So I am conversant on what can be done and what should be done. And yeah, watch 2026 unfold.
Many people think UPC, including I have a friend of mine, the likes of Ono Wycliffe of Ginger. Many people, the young people, think UPC is a part of the old people, the judges, the grannies. How are you rebranding it to appeal to today's wannabes? You call them Generation Zs, because when you talk about UPC, I mean to be obote, these are obote things. And rebranding them to appreciate you today may be a bit hard.
And there are certain stereotypes which have been put on UPC. There's a lot of misinformation which has been put. But an election is also a conversation. And this conversation we are starting early, and it's a question of where we want to go as a country. One of the issues which we raised earlier, I have been prepared to engage. So I'm able to raise even difficult issues in a more palatable way on how we can find a solution for Ugandans, a solution which will improve the livelihoods of Ugandans. I know that, of course, there are those who will not take it lightly or don't take it well, but I'm going to do what I can do. And at the end of the day, it's going to be the decision of the people of Uganda to make that decision. I also need to be able to convince the people of Uganda that they can make a difference. One thing is the way you've also taken this issue that it's impossible. Many people give up because they think it's impossible. I want to tell you it is possible. It has been done. We have been able to do it. Even under difficult circumstances, we've been able to prevail. So it's important that Ugandans come out and really make their voices heard. And when we do so, the difference will be seen. When you look at the figures and statistics, if you get a large turnout, it is definitely going to be harder to impossible to rig. And that happens largely in urban areas because of the concentration of people. There's far less rigging in urban areas because people are vigilant, people are active. They are going to find somebody who's recording something on the phone and what. So it's difficult to do it in some of those areas. Now it's a question of expanding it and taking it as far as possible. But also know that as a people, we must make that decision. And the decision should not be whether it is Museveni, Akena, it should be the future of the people of Uganda. And we must come with what is best for the people of Uganda. That is what I'm going to push for. That is what I'm going to work for.
But the first step would have been to get UPC out of Obote's house. Why has UPC remained to get out of Obote's house? It is Obote, it is his wife, now it is his son. Can't we run UPC outside Obote's house and make it better?
I contested against Olarato. I was not the only one. There was Yona Kanyomozi, Joseph Ocheno, the late Sospata Kwenyu. I think about 6 of us in 2010. I lost. And I conceded on the delegates' floor. I conceded. And I said, 5 years, I'm coming back. 5 years later, I came back. In the district conference, I overwhelmed everybody. Again, we're about 6. I think we're more than 6. And the UPC constitution provides, first is the district conference, where you must get at least 1/3 of the districts in order to be able to go to the next step of the delegates conference. I had 2/3. The other 1/3 was divided amongst other players from different parts of Uganda. Now, that in itself is support of the membership on that basis. Yes, there were difficulties went through thereafter, but the support from the board. Now, we're moving this forward and trying to organize. If there's somebody better suited and better supported to be able to take the party forward, I don't have a problem. I have lost election, I've conceded.
But there cannot be anybody better because you have delineated the intellectuals. The Peter Walubiris are out, the others are out. These are people who build the party together, but you threw them away. So who comes next?
Peter Walubiri, we all contested elections in 2006. Peter Walubiri contested in Bugabula South. He has never gone back. It's important for you to ask him why he has never gone back to the people of Bugabula South. Had nothing to do with Akena.
No, there is no Akena in Bugabula South.
Nothing to do with UPC.
No UPC there. He's a homeboy. Son of the soil.
Son of the soil.
Yes, very good intellectual lawyer.
What did the people of Bugabula South tell him about politics? So if you want to come and skydive into some level here, but you're not able to get the support of the grassroots or support of your people, that is a different issue. In the politics which we're going on, we are going to contest. We want the constituencies. We want to be able to be represented at different levels. If Peter Walubiri says going back to Bugabula South, I will be the first one to campaign for him, to give him all the support the party can do. But if it is to disorganize the party and then to pretend that you are going to be the one to take the party forward, yet you are not able to handle elections, even in your own capacity, who are we deceiving? We're deceiving ourselves.
A good evening, Mr. President. Thank you for this wonderful interview. It's been nice having you. The SML News continues with Honorable Jimmy Akena. Keep enjoying the conversation. The first one to declare that he will stand for president against Mr. Museveni in the 2026 general elections with a rare heart of steel that despite the military, the money, the structure, and the infrastructure, Mr. Akena is determined to take Mr. Museveni on.
This is